Nero versus Noel matchup. Because, you know, going into the series, this is a best of 5 series. Noel has to prepare for, you know, shifting games, either of these two very skilled players. That's going to be interesting to see. So I think, you know, we have to have our eyes on the Barrel lane as well. And rounding this up, Varus going to SBTC.
I like this pick. Again, we remembered for poke long-range champions, the counter, either you have a Vi or a Jarvan 4 that is able to dive into the backline. And now the biggest question is whether or not BURIRAM wants to add more into that. What is going to be their jungler? Because I feel like this Jarvan 4 is going to be towards Noel. He did play it numerous times before, up against their series against Evos, but looks like it's going to be the Nunu here. Moonfall into the absolute zero. I think that's pretty sick.
Yeah, and you add the chain of corruption into that mix as well.
Yeah, Jess, I'm eager to hear your thoughts on the Nunu. How do you think it's going to go for SBTC?
The Nunu. I'm not so sure about Nunu in this game because of snowball value. Isn't that much compared to like Jarvan Engage from Noel. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah, and you know, I think every time Nunu comes on, everybody's really interested, but nobody is really too sure as to how it's going to be. It, you know, it can be very 50-50, but it definitely is an exciting pick once you see, you know, that adorable Yeti coming onto the draft. Riku, any final thoughts on this draft?
It's Jarvan 4 and Olaf together again. No counters for the Olaf. They are going to be in the same, basically in the same team. And I'm curious to see whether or not Kiral gets to survive the Flag and Drag Cataclysm and as well as the Olaf just running straight to your face.
Yeah, well, let's get it started. Let's get into game 1 of BURIRAM United versus SBTC. Casters, over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Mika, and we're so excited to jump into this very first series, the upper bracket finals, SBTC Esports and BURIRAM United. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up your seats because we're ready for some turbulence. We have the cool kid, Mr. TJ, over here. He's gonna offer you some tea.
Cool as ice.
It's up to you. You want to offer some tea, TJ?
Sure. Here's my tea. I think SBTC have kind of messed up this draft for them. They're not playing to their traditional win conditions.
You've spilled the tea everywhere, TJ. It's all over the floor now.
I'm sorry, it was hot. It was burning hot. I'm really sorry. I hope that everyone's okay. Take off any clothing that it's soaked into. If you ever get hot liquid spilled on your clothes, take that clothing off so that it doesn't burn your skin.
Yes. And it feels like it's a little bit hot for SBTC right now. They're going up against BRU, who have been looking on form, who have been able to play into this late game, especially with Kinemon. And now, like you mentioned, you're looking at this Nunu and like, okay, well, this kind of fits what BRU want.
Yeah, SBTC are drafting towards a mid-game. Normally, you look at TF and expect him to set up early dominance on the map. Him and Julie are the real stars of this team, as we talked about on the desk. It's down to that mid-jungle duo to take over games, and on Nunu Diana, they're going to need to do so in the mid-late game. Now, they do have incredible synergy in that mid-late game. Their team fights, absolutely terrifying. The TF Nunu is going to take the front lines while Julie comes in, and ideally her Moonfall happens right on top of the Absolute Zero. The two ultimates combine perfectly, and whilst all of that is happening, you can have Kiral in the backlines throwing out arrows, and Yanaro cleaning up low HP targets. It's a good team fight. The problem is, SBTC are going to opt into BURIRAM's game plan to execute it.
Oh, this is an interesting start though here, TJ. Flashing with the gold card, moving onto TF. Might take him down. One last auto tag finds it, but Archony will fall in the process. Supporter drops low as well. He flashes away, but Shiba, the third to fall on the side of BRU.
But that was the team fight, and they just got it for free. That was exactly what I just laid out. The front line tanked up, Kiral walked through, throwing some arrows over the top, and everything works perfectly for SBTC as BURIRAM randomly run it down the river and find themselves in a very strange, disconnected fight.
And this is so strange for them, TJ. BRU is a team that never fights, never dies early on. I was so surprised to see that happen, and it looks like the aggression continues because now they're moving on to Julie. Concussive Blows comes across the gold card, primed and ready for the Moonfall, waiting for them in the brush. Look at that flag and drag onto 3, dives them on the turret. They jump into the Cataclysm. It's 2 kills, and 3 back for BRU.
And that's much better because they've disabled the exact team fight we were just talking about. This is a team that if it isn't in a 5-on-5, and most critically, if it doesn't have Kiral, can't win those sorts of skirmishes. All of their damage, especially before Julie has hit the late game, is going to come from what Kiral can engineer and Yanaro can finish off. So BURIRAM do a very good job of isolating a fight they know they can win there up towards the top side.
And TJ, I have to say, if this were a flight I'm going on right now, I give this 1 star. The turbulence, just what after we took off, I mean, it's too much to deal with.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's talk about the BURIRAM composition because we didn't really have time to talk through it, but they've got a Twisted Fate, and that's going to be rather confusing into TF, and that's going to give them access to the side lanes early. So what I want to see them do during this early and mid game is set out to control the map and give a lot of gold over to Kinemon, who's going to get decently big into the late game. I frankly think that BURIRAM have kind of swapped places with SBTC in this game, because they're running a composition that needs early and mid control, and they're running it into a SBTC comp that just wants to team fight.
But we've seen BRU play a composition with the Olaf, with the Java quite a bit recently, and it looks pretty good from this team. I mean, it feels like a place now, it's changed a little, but BRU are still able to execute the individual champions very well here.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that BURIRAM has kind of added to their quiver as they've gone through the tournament. They've gotten much better at being flexible, showing up during the early game, and that whole setup gank we saw up top is critical to their success. It needs to be more like that, going for these skirmishes, relying on the power of the Olaf and Twisted Fate to find engage and success in 2v2s and 3v3s.
It's been such a long journey for BRU as well. I mean, they've had to play throughout the entire competition, coming into the play-ins, making their way through the last chance qualifiers, and now in the playoffs, in the upper bracket finals. I mean, if we talk about finding new adaptations to the way they play, I mean, they've had plenty of games to get to this point. Well, we're starting to drag it up now. It's just about 5 minutes into the game. BRU will be the ones to start it up first. SBTC quite a ways away, not in good position to contest this.
Yeah, but that's all right, because SBTC can get the Rift Herald here, and that is the higher priority objective to most teams. It's interesting, though, because BURIRAM are pulling an SBTC. They're going to try and contest this.
Oh! He stole the Rift Herald! Archie, he teleports into the back, and he finds it. Glacial Fission comes across. They got the knockup on the TF. Crowd control, lay it onto this Nunu, and somehow they take him down as well.
With a normal card! That wasn't even a gold card! That was just a normal card. He baited TF into smiting too early and just walks away with the dragon. We're with the Rift Herald Archery. That was incredible.
Jaw dropped. I'm in shock. I mean, what is happening? BRU such a magnificent start to this game. 61 HP, TJ.
That's insane. And Archery survives the experience as well. This is the stuff that Archery is so good at. This is why BURIRAM have gone so far. Not stealing Rift Heralds, that's the first time Archery's done that. But he's so good at finding positioning on the map and being able to survive that dangerous positioning. You see him there be able to teleport up top and engage with perfect timing. It looked ridiculous, it looked far too early, but there wasn't a whole lot of damage. Remember, all of SBTC's damage is in the relatively low DPS Varus, so he knows he can survive that engagement as long as his team comes up on time. He times it perfectly, just walks away from the fight.
And BRU, after a really solid start here, TJ, we haven't seen a turret go down, which is a little bit slower than usual, but still a lot of presence, a lot of map presence for these teams. Well, down the bomb side now, looking to take down support, who's had to flash away, stand behind me available as well. Moonfall comes across, but Julie not able to catch anyone there. SBTC instead will be the one to get this turret.
There is something to watch out for BURIRAM as we get towards the mid-late game, which is I think they do lose these team fights. I talked about how good the SBTC team composition is, and I'll stand by that. And as you should know, if you've been watching this tournament, Twisted Fate kind of falls off a cliff. You get to that late game and Twisted Fate sort of stops doing damage. You're gonna have a damage spike for Twisted Fate when he completes his second item, which does look like it'll be a Lich Bane. So that'll be coming out around the 10-minute mark. And after that, Archony kind of just stops being a damage dealer, and all of BURIRAM are going to rest their hopes onto Kinemon. He's going to be the vast majority of their damage.
And it's going well for them as well. You look at what they're doing, they're moving together as a unit, you play towards with Archini's gold card, and you have so much pick potential here. They're looking to maybe take down Aquino as well. They get information with the Destiny, almost see Noel drop, but he survives somehow. They're down to the bomb site now. Second charge comes across from the Rip Tower. That's 2 turrets over to BRU, but Noel will fall in the mid lane.
He just launched an arrow all the way down the mid lane and got the kill onto Noel. Absolute sniper.
It's a nice little pickup for SBTC to try to equalize a little bit. They also get a top side turret, but this is, well, a little bit different here, TJ, because BRU, they get 2 turrets in the same lane. So there's still an argument to be made that, well, BRU have an easier time still breaking open these other tier turrets.
Yeah, and again, I don't think a lot of this early trading matters too much as long as it's even, because most of these teams, both these teams, are spiking towards the mid game. So you can expect BURIRAM to take a lead right now whilst we're skirmishing. SBTC, especially because they have gold on Kirol, he's just completed his Muramana, can now start looking for team fights though. To expect like this next dragon fight as we head towards a mountain dragon to be incredibly impactful. If SBTC can engineer a 5-on-5 team fight here, they should win it, and that will turn the game in their favor. If BURIRAM can use the power spike of Archini to win a major team fight here, though, that opens up the game for them in turn. I'm a little worried, though, they're not going to be able to do that, given that Kinemon is about on par with this Varus.
I love that you mentioned that, TJ, because Kinemon, while he is about on par with Kirol, I mean, he had the rain upgrade. That could be the little advantage that they need, because the corrupting chain missing out, that's crowd control loss for SBTC. That could be Dragon, and it will go to BRU.
And that kind of one miss on the engage dooms SBTC's fight there, because they don't actually have a whole lot of engage unless they're willing to risk their 2 tanks. And if you do that versus this team, you're asking Noel to jump onto your backline. We saw him do it so many times yesterday versus EVOS, where Noel on this Jarvan has an uncanny, a preternatural talent for getting in between the front line and the back line mid-team fight, and just splitting all the carries that you want to survive from all the tanks that they're protecting with their damage.
And it's been a really nice adaptation for BRU. You know, this Jarvan has really started to find its footing through the competition. Well, they're looking to maybe take down Archini here, but it's a little bit overambitious because you have to watch out for Kiro as well. Watch Supporter. He's just running down the marksman here. One more auto attack will find him. He jumps back into the absolute zero, will fall to TF. You still have to watch out for Yunaro, who's jumped into the back, cataclysm onto Aquino. But it's a fight on both sides. You have to worry about Shiva, though the undertow comes across. Aquino the next to fall with the flag and drag, giving a double kill over to Noel. And Yunaro tries to jump back into the hook shot, but you have to watch out. A little bit more damage to take him down, but he gets away. With Julie joining in now. The Lunar Rush onto the creep into the back, and BRU will get away.
A good fight for BURIRAM, all things considered. They demonstrate Noel's prowess of doing exactly what we were talking about, getting in between the front and the back line. And you see the weakness, potentially, of SBTC's teamfight composition, where if Kirol isn't there, if he dies, or if he's zoned away by pressure, then it's very hard for SBTC to have enough damage to win the latter half of teamfights. You could see there, it wasn't the tankiest members of BURIRAM that were still there fighting. Noel was incredibly low HP, everyone else is relatively lightweight, but none of them could be finished off because Julie's not at his damage spike yet. That'll come later when he completes Rabadon's, and oh, this could be dangerous. We're fine.
It looks like a repeat of what we just saw here, TJ, continuing to fight in the mid lane, looking to take down Archini. Exchange Corruption used twice in a row there to get the catch on the Twisted Fate.
So what you're looking for damage over on SBTC is when we complete Rabadon's on Julie. And at that point, SBTC are really scary for BURIRAM, because they're going to have 2 major damage threats, and BURIRAM need to fight now.
They're looking for the fight here, TJ. They found a Cataclysm to lock down the 2 targets. TF will fall. This Nunu not tanky enough just yet. Yunaro jumps in with the Hextech ultimate. He trains back onto Shiva. They have to watch out for Julie. He's coming back in from the side, so they have to watch out for Diana. Gold card ready from Archini, though. It's a little bit too dangerous to try and step forward. BRU looking to reset.
Yeah, we're still poking here, so I'm scared, but this should be pretty easy for Kirol to walk away from.
Okay, gold card ready to jump onto Julie. The Moonfall comes across. It's onto 3 targets, but you don't have the damage left from BRU, so nobody will fall on either side.
Good play. SBTC slow down the pace of the game because, again, they're still waiting on those activations. So they're poking now. They're trying to play through their advantages there. but they don't take any major risks. They slow down the pace, they don't hard engage, which is what they need to do to win with this composition. Because as you can see, again, all of their damage is currently riding Kirill, and will be until Rabadon's death cap is completed as the next major item for Julie.
Well, next dragon, it's going to be Inferno, so this could actually help them mitigate some of those issues they're facing, TJ. Lacking damage on Julie, it could become... Oh, never mind. That's the Rabadon's completed, plus the Inferno coming up. I mean, we might just see Diana come online.
Yeah, and this is right about the time you're seeing Rapid Fire Cannon pivot being done for Archony. That's because around this period, it becomes less important for Twisted Fate to do damage. He can't really keep up. And more important for Twisted Fate to start being a gold card bot, an engage bot. So that's the turn. Archony has got engaged now, but he doesn't have damage, and BURIRAM don't have a whole lot of damage. All of that pressure is now on Kinemon versus SBTC, where they have Julie, where they have Kirill, and they are ready to fight for the first game of this best of 5.
Well, it's like you mentioned, Gold Card and Rapid Fire Cannon available for Archony, and they're playing towards the Dragon now. Both sides setting up a staunch defense, trying to get some control, vying for control around this Dragon Pit.
The other thing to watch in this fight is going to be Shiba, who's got some serious damage on the Olaf at this point. If he can get in range...
Nice engage coming through from Unero. It's going to be Noel jumping in the back, diving into SBTC Esports, holding him in place for the Cataclysm, buying enough time, but Julie comes in with a big moonfall. Shiba comes in with damage as well. The Absolute Zero coming through from TF. The burden of the carry on to Kinemon, who's looking for a fight up against the Nunu, up against the Varus, and they'll be able to find it with the Killer Instinct, diving with the ace against SBTC.
And Kinemon stays alive, matches and doubles the damage as he needed to for BURIRAM to win that fight. Additionally, we saw Noel doing what he does best, getting into the backline, splitting the fight. A lot of people got low there for BURIRAM, but because Yanaro was one of the first players to fall, there was nobody to finish off those kills. So all the low HP BURIRAM members were able to back up, stay alive in the back of the fight, and they convert a very easy, very clean Baron take after a dangerous team fight. And that'll be, I think, enough gold for BURIRAM to win this game. They're properly in it now. They're still going to need to win probably 2 more team fights to win straight out, but they've got a chance now.
And this has been fight after fight where Noel has been able to use that Cataclysm to build space for his team. Julie might be able to jump in and nuke for a decent amount of damage, but without the rest of his team, without Kiro able to follow through with the piercing arrow, you don't have enough damage to take them down.
And Shiba's doing an incredibly good job as well, getting into the middle of these hectic team fights and just chewing away at those tanks. Every time we see SBTC try to build that tank frontline of Arkano and TF, Shiba's able to just get right onto them and absolutely melt their health bars.
BRU now making use of this to play a 3-2. Split pushing, bringing 2 waves in at once.
Because of this split, they're working away at these turrets. They could end this game with a big team fight if they want to step up for it.
Exactly like you mentioned, so Uneros had to come back down to the bottom side. They're looking to take down Shiba. Right, the rock going to be procced, and to keep him safe, the rest of the team's going to rotate over as well.
A good take by BURIRAM to convert on that extra turret. They played the macro very well there. They played the split between the 2 lanes, a 3-2 split with 3 players mid, 2 players down bottom, incredibly effectively. The 2 players that were disconnected in that kind of lesser group were the Twisted Fate and the Olaf, and you saw the reason for it there. When SBTC said, okay, we're going to match that 2-player bottom lane with the majority of our forces, you've got the Olaf who spends Ragnarok and just walks away from the team fight, and you've got Archony who can teleport away from the team fight with his ultimate. So there was no way for SBTC to punish that group.
And I love what we're seeing with the Twin Shadows adaptation from Archony as well. The fact that he's been able to play aggressively enough because he's positioning so well, he doesn't have to worry about defensive item. He can get additional utility with his active item.
And off of this Baron take, as I was talking about, BURIRAM have built such a big gold lead that they can now win the next couple of team fights. They can fight the next couple of team fights with a minor advantage. That advantage is named Kinemon, and he's real scary. He did just complete his 4th item, 1 away from full build, and he's going to chew through these team fights as a late-game snowballed Kai'Sa should, which is to say he's going to be at least as scary as the SBTC combo of Kirill and Julie.
So you get a 2-for-1 special. You have one guy doing the job of 2. BRU pretty content with how this game has been playing out. It's going to be that Elder Cloud Drake coming up next. BRU could play things slowly. I mean, they have the Baron coming up as well. So a couple objectives to keep your eyes on. If you're BRU, well, you just want to play things slowly, get some control. You have quite a decent amount of pressure on these inhibitor turrets.
I will also note here that there needs to be a somewhat better job done by SBTC of keeping Shiba off of that tank frontline in these team fights. Because just as important to the success of their team as all of the damage dealers doing damage is their tanks surviving for the first couple of moments. And the last couple of team fights, Noel on the Jarvan has done a much better job of being a frontline tank than TF on the Nunu.
I'm starting to see Archony really start to pose a threat to SBTC Esports. You notice how careful they are positioning around him. And Archony's his gold card just barely timed out there as they look for a catch onto Unera, but Unera's coming back for revenge. She's trying to get a catch back onto BRU. Gold card locked, and Radio Archony was joined back into the fight. A beautiful disengage coming through from Noel to build space for the rest of his team as the flag and drag chases after the Camille, but Kaisa falls over the wall instead with the killer instinct. Kinemon's coming up massive. This late game hyper carry Kaisa too strong for SBTC to deal with.
And the tanks die before any damage is dealt. Yes, Kirol is there, but because Noel zones him off with the Cataclysm, he's flashing away. He's not dealing damage and the tanks are dying, and there's no value found. And BURIRAM can march towards the end.
Unbreakable blocks a lot of this damage. Minion wave escorted in. Death time is looking too low. Kirill's gonna fall as well. The Nexus, the targeted focus for BRU. It's game number 1 to the Thailand region seed.
Incredible stuff.